go. What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 2Smart Dummies podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marcus.
And I'm your host, B. Reed.
Beatty, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Had a long weekend traveling. Driving is for the birds.
You make your way over to that lonely Oklahoma?
It's past Oklahoma. I went down to weak-ass Dallas.
Oh, my future hometown, huh?
No, good luck.
And that's so funny that you say that. I'm actually going to be in Dallas tomorrow. So
people love Dallas. I'm just not a huge fan of Dallas. It's cool. Man, Dallas is one of those places where I like to visit. I wouldn't want to live there. Like, I like to go and then leave.
Well, count me as part of the people that love Dallas. So, speaking of that, the Dallas Cowboys play tonight. It's going to be rocking and rolling. Well, I guess not in Dallas. The game's in New York, so I forget I said anything.
I'm praying that the Giants can pull an upset off.
I am going to go to a Mavs game Wednesday against the Orlando Magic. I'm going to go to the Stars game tomorrow against Colorado Avalanche. So I'm going to utilize Dallas to the fullest.
Yeah, that Mavs-Orlando game might be pretty cool. You mean, you get to see some talents. Fultz starting now. He ain't doing shit, but he's starting. But, yeah, man, it might be a good game. Luka.
So I'm excited for that. Let's get to a couple things. This was actually a pretty interesting weekend in sports. And for those of y'all that don't, or maybe new to the program, we kind of bounce around. We talk about a little of this, talk about a little of that. Willie Taggart fired by Florida State after a year and a half. Now, true enough, they're getting their brains beat in, week out. But I don't think people realize how bad of a program Florida State had become, even in Jimbo Fisher's last couple years there. And we all know black coaches don't get they're not afforded the same time frame that the rest of college football is afforded. So you think this is Willie? Now, true enough, he wasn't doing so hot at Oregon.
Nah.
I don't really know what to make of Willie Taggart right now.
Nah, man. Usually I'm on the bandwagon, fight for everything black, but that team was terrible, bro. They be getting their ass beat, like head beat in. Like you can lose and then show some progression. Like even with Jimbo, they were competitive in games, but they were losing. You know what I'm saying? They just been getting blown out these last year and a half. Like it started last year, at the beginning of last year, and it had not gotten better. They're not showing any progress. And for a program like Florida State, you're in Florida, a hotbed of recruiting. You had talent on the roster before you left there because they were getting, even though Jimbo was losing, they were getting top 10 classes, top 5 classes. So how can you come in and take over that program and do so badly? That's just bad coaching. I'm not saying Jimbo was a good coach. He didn't deserve the job either. But, man, Willie Taggart didn't deserve to stay. I think it's a way overdue. I mean, personally. They haven't looked good at all. Now you're going to start affecting recruiting classes, and you don't want to get behind because now it takes longer to rebuild.
I wish, for me, it's one of those things like looking at Arkansas and Chad Morris. You got to pull, like for me, this Willie Taggart thing, I'm with you. Like usually I support everything black, right? But for me, it's not a good fit. You got to pull the plug, get on out of here because it's one thing to lose, right? Like what Chip Kelly's doing. I get it. We got to see what things look like with your guys. But UCLA's been kind of competitive this year. Arkansas, Florida State have not been competitive in 2 years or a year and a half under these new coaches.
I disagree. I disagree about Arkansas, though. I mean, I think with Arkansas, you got to give him some leash. You got to give him a longer leash, and it's what.
But you can't be losing to everybody 50-14.
Nah, but you got to rebuild too. Like when you say you got to have your guys, you do have to understand. Number one, when he first got there, he didn't have his guys. You guys had bad recruiting classes under Bielema. Bielema wasn't bringing in the talent that he needed. He definitely wasn't even bringing in the talent for Chad Morris's offense. So more than having a coaching change, you guys had a system change with players that didn't fit his system at all, from offensive linemen to receivers to quarterbacks, all across the board. Y'all played last year. It's a terrible season. So normally you would want your coach to build off the second season. The problem was y'all had like 27 people transfer. So even the people that you built with and coached up last year, they're not even there anymore. Most of the people that played last year didn't play. But he did bring in a quality recruiting class this year. the recruiting class that he brought in has shown signs of having talent. So you have to give him another year with a second recruiting class and for the talent that he brought in this year to get better. There's like 3 receivers, a tight end. Quarterbacks are trash, but those weren't really recruit. KJ was the only recruited quarterback. But as far as the offensive talent that he brought in, now the defense, I can't speak on that. But even if you brought in 3 and 4 star cornerbacks, it takes them a year or two, even if they start, to get going. You have to give him more time.
And I think my biggest problem is John Chavis. He wasn't good at Texas A&M. He ain't good at Arkansas. We talked about it. We don't have to linger on this too long. You think Lane Kiffin ends up at a Power 5 conference or Mike Norvell ends up at a Power 5 conference because Memphis is rocking and rolling. Norvell's a hot coach. Lane Kiffin isn't exactly dead down at Florida Atlantic. He's been doing very well. Do you think we see his name start? And also USC's probably going to come open as well. They got their brains beat in by Oregon this year. Now, we know Oregon is the cream of the crop in the Pac-12, but USC's been bad for a few years now.
Yeah, and that, before I go there, I'm telling you, Oregon is legit. Their only loss is to Auburn. We talked about this, I believe, last week or week before. Oregon is a legit contender to make the football playoff because they beat Utah already, right?
I believe. I don't know if they played Utah yet. I'm not sure.
Okay, but the only loss is the SEC team, man. They only lost, even if Auburn gets 3 losses, the only loss is to an SEC team the first game of the season. That's an early loss. They've looked spectacular since then. They have a higher strength of schedule than even if OU come out undefeated. So it'll be interesting what's going to happen. I think Oregon's going to get in. And they got a star quarterback. So do you want to go with Jalen or do you want to go with can't never remember that kid's name. But to answer
who did Oklahoma lose to?
Kansas State.
Oh, they out.
Yeah, if it comes down to it, I mean, I don't see how you take Oregon out. You know what I mean? Because Oregon has a higher.
But you've got one loss Georgia. You've got.
But Georgia's
Florida.
Yeah, but problem with Georgia is one of those SEC teams are gonna have to. I guess the only way. Well, Georgia's a candidate because if Georgia wins, and then I guess Alabama's undefeated,
or LSU.
LSU still has to play Bama this
Alabama.
week. So one of them has to have a loss. So I'm saying the best case scenario for the SEC to try to get to would be Bama to beat LSU and then go and Georgia beats Bama. That's Correct. The only way you would have 2 teams with 1 loss.
Otherwise, or LSU, if Alabama could not make it, LSU and Georgia could easily get in.
Yeah.
I guess LSU comes out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying because LSU and Bama have to play each other. So either Bama's going to give LSU a second loss this week, which pretty much takes them out of the conversation, or if
LSU's undefeated.
Oh, yeah. Why do I think? Oh,
they're number 1 in the country right now.
I'm tripping. Yeah, that'd be 1 loss. So, yeah, it gets interesting because one of those teams, both those teams could have 1 loss in the West and one of them not make the SEC championship game.
Yeah. All right. Let's
but to answer your question, Lane Kiffin will get another try. Both those coaches are going to be high commodities because every team is looking for a quick turnaround. Teams don't want to wait 2 and 3 years anymore.
Hey, you might see Les Miles' name pop up too, so we'll see about that. All right, man, let's get to the NFL. College football, you had the top 3 teams off. Nothing really happened other than Florida getting their second loss of the season to Georgia, as we mentioned. So let's get to the NFL. 49ers are the only remaining undefeated team, and they tried to give it away to the Cardinals. Cardinals definitely look a lot better than I thought they would, at the beginning of the season. But San Francisco, that defense is for real. I'm still not a believer in Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll see. He's 8-0.
They have a monstrous run game, though, and then that's what Arizona tried to do. Arizona tried to stop that run game, and he's good enough to pass if you put everything in on the run. You give him some one-on-one coverages. He usually struggles with those complex defenses stopping the pass, but their running game is so efficient and so good, you can't play the pass, really. So they're just trying to stop the run game, and then it leave easy lanes. He can get that. He can make those plays, so I don't know how teams are going to stop that 3-headed monster they got back there and, play the passing game, especially now that they got Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, now that definitely makes their offense a lot more dynamic. I'm really interested in the NFC this year. The AFC, I don't really know what to make of that. Not a lot going on. The Colts, if Jacoby Brissett has to miss a significant amount of time, that's probably done it for them, especially with Houston rolling like they are. And now Oakland back in the wild card hunt for that. They've got the tiebreaker over Indianapolis for that wild card race. Then Buffalo's probably going to be a wild card team as well. So if Jacoby Brissett misses time, that's probably about it for them. Bills rocking and rolling. They haven't really played anyone good except for New England, which, again, New England, now I'm not so sure how good they are. I'm not willing to be like, oh, we told you that the Patriots are. All I'm saying is Patriots haven't played anybody good all freaking year, and they played a good team last night, and they got their asses whooped.
Yeah, I've had real concerns about that offense all season. The problem is the teams that they played, even that you can quote unquote thought was good at the beginning of the season, didn't have a great defense. I guess the closest one would be the Jets, but their offense was so inept that the defense scored out most of the points for New England. Even when New England played the Giants, they didn't just roll. Any team that has any type of good defense or solid, disciplined play, New England struggles because you can shut that run game down. That offensive line is not good. Sony Michel is not being able to. They're not creating a lot of opportunities for Sony. And then you add in the fact that their receiver core has just been demolished. They just lost Josh Gordon. You got Edelman who looks like a shell of himself. He's still making plays, but he can't make them as consistently as he did before, especially stretching the field. Sanu should be a good look. He's still picking up the system. I'm just not sold on this offense. That defense is great. Great defense. But what happens
when... Well, the secondary is great. Their pass rush is just okay.
I don't know. The pass rush... that pass rush has been, making some plays this season. I mean, those sack fumbles and stuff, that's been the pass rush. They got a lot of interceptions, too. And, I don't care how good your secondary is. Your secondary ain't nothing if you don't got at least a decent pass rush. You can't let them just sit back there. I don't care how good you are.
So, after watching a bunch of the games yesterday, man, I still have no idea what to make a lot of these teams. The Packers look like dog shit. By the way, are you ready to throw in the towel on the Browns yet? 12-4, win the division, whichever one you want to call it.
Nah, Freddie Kitchens is trash, man. I got to blame this on Freddie Kitchens. There's no way they should be this bad. And the only thing that I can think of is Greg Williams was a better coach than Freddie Kitchens.
For sure, it's on Freddie Kitchens, but Baker Mayfield has stunk. Make no ifs, ands, or buts. He stinks. And I'm not saying I think that he's a bust or anything like that. I'm just saying he has not been good this year.
He's seeing ghosts, man. I mean, when you got a bad offensive line, Baker hasn't had a bad offensive line, and I don't know when, because even when he played at Texas Tech is built, to protect. That's what they do. They have. But how's that help?
How's that his vision? I mean,
because if you think someone's gonna hit you every time, like nobody's like when he does sit back there, he's always moving. He's never standing still.
It seems like the more time he gets, the worse he is. When you have a dynamic duo like Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. who excel in short game routes, one can take to the house at any point, and the other who is a possession receiver who will always move the chains, and you got a running back who can catch out of the backfield and can get 5-6 yards of carries or take one to the house anytime. There's no reason that this offense should be that bad. It is on Freddie Kitchens, but it's also on Baker Mayfield. Again, I have eyeballs, and he's been bad.
I don't totally disagree. His weakness has always been heavy coverage. So that's one of the things I'm saying. If you're doing heavy coverage, but the line can't really create openings where, you can get the underneath stuff or you can really run the ball effectively at all times. When they run the ball effectively with Chubb, the offense looks a lot better. But what they're doing is they're taking away the deep ball. I remember when he was at OU, the one thing the teams used to do, like Iowa State, that would give him real trouble is play a cover 4. Because he struggles in really just reading zone coverages, and he gets impatient. So what you bet on with Baker Mayfield is trying to make him impatient. Try to take away the deep ball, force him to dink and dunk underneath, because he will get impatient, and he will throw it up for you at some point in time.
So, let's talk about the Bears. Talk about Mitchell Trubisky.
He's awful. I'll give you that.
He's bad. Real bad.
Yeah, real bad.
So, but the Bears don't have a first-round draft pick next year, and that goes to the Raiders. And that is looking like a top 10, top 15 draft pick.
Montgomery's looking good, though.
He's looking good, but what do the Bears do from here? Because how do you address this quarterback position now? Does Tom Brady come there? I mean, like, what
don't
happens?
think, traditionally teams don't give up on, quarterbacks this early. I mean, Jameis Winston's still playing. You know what I mean? Teams take it down to the final year of that contract once they...
Right, but the Bears had 9 yards of total offense in the first half.
Yeah.
And the Eagles' defense ain't exactly the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. I'm not saying they're terrible, but they definitely ain't great.
Well, they got some healthy players back in the secondary, so I don't know, man. It's hard. In the second half, he looked a lot better. They started taking deep shots. I think a lot of what's going on is that now Nagy doesn't trust Trubisky anymore. And because he doesn't trust him, it kind of limits his growth even more. So you see him making bad decisions, but you're not even trying to let him throw the ball anymore because he's done so bad. So when you get a matchup like the Eagles, who the secondary is bad, and you want to test that secondary, now the game plan is to run the ball. Now you're running into the teeth of what is the Eagles' strength, and the whole offense looks sucky. In the second half, they just said, fuck it, we're going to air it out. And they started throwing the ball, and he had some success. If Nagy doesn't trust him, they're going to have to get rid of him or get another quarterback. Because that offense can't be... Nagy is not a genius if he doesn't trust his quarterback. You know what I mean? You have to trust that the quarterback can run that offense, or the offense is going to look like trash. And that hurts the defense because the defense is always on the field. You know what I mean? You got to give them a chance to rest and move the ball, man. But I think he's a bad quarterback. I don't know what they do. They're in a bad situation, man. Unless they give away future picks or I don't know.
Yeah, they're not as in a dire situation as the Rams as far as draft picks go, but they're close. And at least Jared Goff is competent. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky looks like a kid just out of high school. But
I think they failed with him in the beginning of the year. I didn't understand what they were doing. They were like sitting him during the preseason like he's Tom Brady. The preseason is the time where you let him air it out, get out some of those mistakes, run some, see what he can do so you can kind of mold the offense to his strengths. They were sitting him like he's fucking Tom Brady. Like he didn't play a preseason game, I don't believe.
So, NFL trade line was uneventful. They're honestly, for those of you who are new to the show, we do love our football, but there's a lot of football programs out there, guys. If y'all want to talk about football, y'all want to listen to football, if there's questions that y'all want us to answer, feel free to email us. Feel free to let us know. But we're about to get to the meat and potatoes. Is there anything you want to talk about in the NFL before we get to the main course?
Nah, man, it was a boring week for me, man.
It really was. The morning stretch of games were awful.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that Lamar Jackson came in, because people really shitted on Lamar Jackson last year and his throwing and made fun of him like all rookie quarterbacks don't struggle. But they were really kind of shitting and disrespecting Lamar Jackson. I like that he came out this year and he's proven a lot of people wrong. I really dig that about Lamar.
But you know what? And I don't know if this was on the last pod that we did. We had some technical difficulties last week where we couldn't get one out for you guys. We're trying to be better about that. But we talked about John Harbaugh has got to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. To make over that entire team, to fit Lamar Jackson's style, and be successful at it, I mean, the dude just adapts year in, year out, and you saw that's what made Bill Belichick successful. And successful coaches do it. And another coach, your boy John Gruden, looking like a Coach of the Year candidate up in Oakland. That defense is grade A, pure, unadulterated trash. But that offense, top 5, top 10, somewhere in there. Best unit, one of the best units in the league. Derek Carr looks great.
You're feeling Derek Carr right now, huh?
I'm back. I'm back on Derek Carr. Okay, he ain't losing us games. So, 2 Coach of the Year candidates. Oakland's back in the wild card race. Baltimore looks like they're going to run. Well, Pittsburgh is playing some good football. So I won't say run away with that division, but they look like they're going to win that division.
Yeah, I love. That's what I like about Harbaugh. That's what I like about Pete Carroll. They're willing to adapt to their players. They don't just set a system and say, hey, we're going to run this system. That's really all I wanted to say about that is I really like the way that Harbaugh adapts to Lamar Jackson. They don't try to make him something that he's not. And I think that's part of Matt Nagy's problem. One thing you see about Nagy is he doesn't use Trubisky's legs. Okay, if he can't throw, Trubisky is actually athletic. You know what I'm saying?
He's athletic as hell.
Yeah, he's not Lamar Jackson, but shit, he's not, Tom Brady either. They should be using his legs a lot more. They should be using a lot more run pass options. They should be using a lot more options. You know what I'm saying? Just different dynamics of that offense, but he's being stubborn and he doesn't really want to adapt to Trubisky's skill set. Give him that RPO just like they do Nick Foles. A long time ago, people thought Nick Foles was trash until he got with Doug Peterson and they simplified the offense down to his strengths. He got $20 million off that. He won a Super Bowl. So
yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it's time to pull the plug on Trubisky. I mean, but then again, your playoff hopes are probably all but done. But then again, your whole division lost this week, so you had a chance to gain a game, but they didn't do that.
Thielen's out indefinitely.
Who?
Thielen, Adam Thielen, with a hamstring.
With that hamstring, which the Vikings have been a little bit not as dynamic without Thielen. And you and I have talked about it before. I think Thielen is by far the best receiver in that offense. I like Diggs. I don't think he's as good as Thielen.
Thielen goes out, and Diggs has one reception for 12 yards.
Exactly. So, all right, man. Let's get to the NBA. We are in week 3, finally, of the NBA season. Yep. You kind of get an idea of who teams are or what they're becoming. I mean, really, the season doesn't start till Christmas. But for those of you guys who are looking at some, maybe you got the league pass, you've been jumping around. There's a lot going on, man. There's a ton going on. So I want to talk about a couple things.
Well, first you got to start off with the rumble between Cat and Embiid. Also, that looked like Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson, or
all that's missing is somebody hanging on them cat's legs. Now Ben Simmons put your boy in a crippled lacrosse face and tapped him out.
I don't know how he got away with that, man. I mean,
he called him a peacemaker. I mean, he was choking my man out.
Yeah, like how are you trying to be a peacemaker by laying on the ground and choking him? Like, why'd you get on his back to hold him down? It'd be different if I'm his teammate, but I'm an opposing team.
Embiid said he was going to tone down trash talking this year, but that took all of 4 or 5 games for that not to happen. So
yeah, they both was being very, very dramatic. No flopping. Doubt. Oh my God, he hit me and all this. Like, I don't know. These big men today are soft, but I don't want to say that because, like I said, we just said the big men in the '90s too were the same way. Big men fights are always horrible, except for what was your boy Chocolate Thunder. Daryl Dawkins.
Oh, that's funny, man. So there's a couple surprises in the league. The Kings look like trash, and I thought they were going to be a fringe playoff team, and they look like the Kings. And I'm mad that I put any faith in them.
Yeah, it's really, really disappointing because I've been having faith in the Kings. And if you listen to this podcast for the past 2 years, we've been talking up the Kings just for them to come out and look like the damn Kings again. And it doesn't help that Marvin Bagley got hurt because he was a big piece of that offense, and a lot of the offense was going to go through him. So losing Marvin Bagley, they lost a lot of dynamics on that offense. You can see it, but they've added Rashawn Holmes, who looks good, but I mean they're gonna have to do something because Bogdanovich, they have to trade him, man. They want him to be the starter second unit, but he wants to start. He's visibly not even giving the energy. Fox, he's good, but Fox is John Wall. We talked about it before. But he has one speed. He goes. He can score and get buckets for himself, but he can't consistently get everybody else involved. Buddy Hield's the same way. It's like they're good and they're all talented, but they're all like isolation one-on-one players is for themselves. There's no good ball movement. It doesn't look like it's fun for other players to play with them. That system just doesn't work for them.
We'll see. It's early in the season. I'm willing to give Luke Walton some time. I mean, that system is something that it's going to take point guards take a minute to learn a new system. So, I'm
just saying it just doesn't look like they're having fun. That's my biggest point.
That's true.
That's my problem.
You know who doesn't look like they're having a ton of fun right now? The Utah Jazz.
That's a tough transition. Another team.
Specifically Mike Conley, who has been an atrocity this year, which is shocking. I figured it would take him a little bit to get going. And, like I said, we're not even 20 games into the season. We're 7, 10, whatever it is. But if you're a Jazz fan, or if you're looking at the Jazz, you pick the Jazz, you gambling degenerates, you're starting to get a little shaky because, Mike Conley is looking like a very inefficient version of. He looks like Donovan Mitchell. So
But I
they
mean,
kind of flip flopped.
to be fair, he did miss a whole year last year, and then before
2
that,
years ago.
2 years. No,
Yeah, Mike Conley played all year last year.
Mike Conley didn't play all year last year, did
Yes,
he?
he did.
Really?
Yep, played the whole season. He
You
didn't
sure
play 2
about
years
that?
ago. That's how we got Jaren Jackson.
Oh, okay, but he played last year.
Played last year.
Oh shit! Never mind.
The Grizzlies were just that bad.
No, I don't even remember him. I don't even remember him playing. I don't watch basketball. So
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, I mean he's having trouble scoring, and a lot of what he's struggling with is another ball dominant guard in Donovan Mitchell. So he's trying to find the balance in getting Donovan Mitchell his shot, and knowing when to get his shot. Because one thing about being at the Grizzlies, he's never played with another guard beside him that was a scoring threat that he needed to get the ball back.
Well, not even just another guard, another person who create their own shot. Mike Miller, Shane Battier, Rudy Gay. Well, Rudy Gay, but that was almost
But that's
a
still
decade ago.
That's still a small forward spot, and you kind of just give it to Rudy Gay. They took turns, so whenever you need to score, Mike can go. But it was never like he was responsible to distributing and getting the ball to everybody.
Yeah,
Usually
he's an old school point guard, and he hasn't had anyone that is even. I mean, Vince Carter wasn't that at that point in his career. And that's kind of something I've been talking about, that it's going to take Mike a while to adjust to having the ball in his hands. I still like this Utah team. I think they need a little more out of Royce O'Neal, or they need to start Joe Ingles in his place. I get why they don't want to do that with him and Bogdanovich on the floor at the same time. Royce O'Neal's there for a little bit of a defensive presence, but they got to figure something out if it's still going to go this way.
I don't know why they just don't start Jeff Green. I mean, I know you don't like Jeff Green. You don't
because he's Jeff Green. Nobody likes Jeff Green.
Yeah, but I mean, he shows flashes. He does more than Royce O'Neal. You know what I mean?
Shows flashes. Jeff Green's got to be 36 years old.
And he still gives you more than Royce O'Neal. I think Royce O'Neal has in all 5 of the games a total of 19 points, 3 assists. He does nothing. I guess if he's really a defensive stopper out there, but he's not shutting down any 4 men. I'm not saying people aren't scared that they're playing against Royce O'Neal. He's not Patrick Beverly. I don't see Royce O'Neal's impact besides running the floor. He would be a lot better with the second unit because Joe Ingles is more of a playmaker than looking for other people. I mean, I know Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell can get their own shot, but as of right now, Joe Ingles seems like he's the best point guard on the roster.
Right. Couple things I want to talk about.
I'm wondering when you're gonna give my boy some respect.
Who?
The Heat. You disrespected them so much in the offseason. My boys coming out 5-1. All right, let's make sure you keep it on the docket.
Okay, we'll get to them because I'm gonna get to these. Okay, I'm gonna get to the inferior the conference of less in a minute.
Okay.
I want to talk about Kawhi Leonard. 2 things. Load management in the first half of the season, quarter of the season. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's getting out. Did you see the little clip from Fitzdale about RJ Barrett?
Oh, I did. And I'm gonna get to that. We're gonna talk about Fitz.
Well, I just want to talk. Well, not Fitz. I want to talk about this load management thing. It's just getting out of hand because Fitz has been taking a lot of heat. Now he should be taking a lot of heat for a lot of shit. But one thing he should not be taking heat for is playing RJ. I think RJ's averaging 38 minutes a game.
Yeah, but 41 minutes. Come on, man. Now we know that's. Yeah, you got to get your reps. I get it, but you can't run these cats into the ground.
Why not? That's the whole point we're talking about with low management. The dude's 19 years old.
Yeah, but
run him.
Knowing what we know now, I'm not saying sit RJ, but if you down 20, you know what I mean, bring his minutes down to 35. You know what I mean? 38 minutes is a lot.
Nah, let him roll. I mean, he got talent. You want him to learn. Put him out there because if you're gonna lose this season, you want him to lose under fire. How many minutes you think LeBron was coming in playing 28 minutes, 30 minutes? They wasn't managing LeBron's load when he came in.
All I'm saying is that's a big extreme. But Kawhi, to be missing games, for anybody to be missing games, Russell Westbrook isn't going to play today because of
he got a knee.
Listen, man.
But he got a knee issue though. There's a reason why they're low management.
I get it, but once we get past 25 games, past Christmas, then I get it. I get it at that point. But come on, man.
But you actually want to do it early though. You want to do it earlier in the season as opposed to late when things really tightened up. So if you want a low manager, you probably want to low manage him early in the season, then after December when you get through the stretch, not low manage him. So this is actually the time to do it.
We talked about people comparing him to LeBron James and asking who the best player in the league is at the moment. And I think you and I both said unequivocally, LeBron just isn't what he was. And I know he's put up some monster triple doubles the past couple games. So is Luka Doncic, by the way. Yeah. But Kawhi Leonard is the best player in the game, and I really don't think it's close. That's nothing on LeBron's legacy. But Kawhi, as far as total package, Kawhi's in his prime. Is there really a debate about this?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that anybody that's watched Kawhi, watched what he does, and has watched him over the past 3 years, besides for the one injury, so 2 years, he's been becoming a dominant force. He's the best two-way player in the game hands down. When he first came in the league, he was a dominant defender, like off top. And now he's developed his offensive game to be just as good as his defensive game. And even if LeBron's not even trying to be on that level anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he's had his time. He wants AD to be the player on the Lakers. He'll take over, but you can tell he's taking a back seat because he wants to extend his time. So, I mean, I can understand what LeBron's doing, but if you're talking about the best overall player in the NBA, there's no question that's Kawhi Leonard, because at the end of the day, this argument always comes down to who can do it on both ends. And there's nobody that has done it on the level of a Kawhi Leonard for probably the past 4 years, except for, like, Jordan. I mean, his impact on offense and defense is crazy.
Now, that brings me to a great point. Now the comparisons to Michael Jordan are coming out. And first I was like, listen, it's a little silly. But now I look at it, I watch him play, and the way he controls the game from a defensive and an offensive standpoint reminds me a lot of not that late 90s Mike or not even athletic 80s Mike, right? Like, Michael Jordan went through probably 3 different versions of himself, 4 different versions of himself. You had the 80s athletic freak, but Kawhi reminds me of that early 90s, 91, that first three-peat Michael that can kind of do what he wants when he wants, and he's at the peak of his powers right now. And I don't think the comparison is crazy. If Kawhi wins a ring this year, there's no he's better than Jordan talk, right? But where does that vault him for? Because I already say he's probably in the top 25 already. Would you say that?
Fuck yeah. I mean, he just brought the Raptors a championship. I mean, so I mean,
here's what I'm going to ask you, because I know you're a Kobe lover. I think Kawhi's better than Kobe.
Me too. I just don't think his resume compares. Right now, I'm saying if I'm looking at it, I would say I think Kawhi is going to end up being better than Kobe overall. But as of right now, his resume, it's close even right now, because if you get the first 3 rings in his career, what they've done, he's already on that level, probably ahead of where Kobe was. But you can't say he's better than Kobe now because of Kobe's full resume. But he's definitely on that trajectory.
Right. Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I don't think that, his place in history is better than Kobe Bryant's right now. Now, you and I have different values of where Kobe is. I think Kobe's back half top end. You think he's first half top 10. Yeah. And I don't. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think if anybody gets booted out of top 10, it's going to be Kobe.
I just don't see how you say that. We've had this conversation, but Kobe's resume is ridiculous. Like, he has one of the best resumes.
But if we're already talking about cats who are going to be better than him, you know how long I still haven't seen.
No, we're not talking about cats. There's only 2 cats. It's LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard. That's it. Who else who else is on the trajectory to be better than Kobe?
I mean, there's already people better than Kobe.
No, you talking about young people or people that?
Oh no, young guns. I mean, as we said, Kawhi I think is better than Kobe.
Yeah, I say Kawhi and LeBron.
That's it. Yeah, you can't put Steph there. KD is probably someone, depending on where that goes. Probably take KD.
He can't do it until he leads his own team. That was the knock on Kobe. The knock on Kobe is he didn't lead his own team.
I'll give you that. But all I'm saying is these comparisons to Michael Jordan, and I still realize young people don't understand, man. Y'all don't realize how good Michael Jordan was. And, if you think LeBron James is the best of all time, cool, whatever. I get it. You're wrong. But, I say LeBron is number 2. but I don't think people understand and realize how good Michael Jordan really truly was, and the fact that we're talking about Kawhi Leonard in this breath, I mean that's pretty insane.
Yeah, man, and the thing about it is, I think that Kawhi Leonard has the closest game to Jordan, and I mean,
The mid range,
yeah,
really,
the play at your own place.
You know, he's not the high flyer that he was, but yeah, but that the actual game of basketball, like I said, if you go through and watch that early '90s Michael Jordan and today's Kawhi Leonard, I mean, the way they're so big and physical and dominant, I mean, it's true, and no one was saying this about Kawhi Leonard 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I never thought that we'd be talking about Kawhi Leonard in this way.
I mean, I didn't think it was crazy just because his defense was so good. They were comparing his defense to Jordan early. It was just his offensive game hadn't stepped up, you know. Now that his offensive game has met his defensive game, I mean, if you watch him play, I'm telling you, like, I used to say Kobe had the closest game to Jordan, but Kawhi does. And it's just that quiet. Now, I'm talking about Kobe, the latent. Go ahead.
Kobe had the closest offensive game. I mean, Kobe was never, ever, ever. I know he made a ton of all defensive teams, but that was on name at some point because
I don't know.
Kobe was never the defender that Michael was.
No, he wasn't, but he tried. He probably gave better effort than most star players. Like, he wanted to
I'll
guard
give you
Iverson.
That.
He wanted.
But
I mean,
Kobe
he wasn't.
was never a lockdown defender. Let's not get that twisted.
I don't know, man. He wasn't bad. I mean, he's playing against some good players. I mean, you know what I mean? He wasn't Jordan. I'm not saying he was Jordan. I'm not saying he was Pippen. But you can't also say he wasn't a lockdown defender. He was a lockdown defender. But I mean, if Iverson gave you 28, I mean, you did good.
Yeah, I mean, because he was going against the T-Max of the world, people who were scoring that.
There were some elite offensive players in the 90s. I mean, some elite, efficient offensive players in the 90s. I just like Kawhi. Like you said, it's more than about, you know, just saying that, hey, Kawhi's better than Jordan or anything like that. It's how they control the game. It's how they dictate the game, how they get other people involved, how just that simple, you know, pull-up. It doesn't matter. All the analytics tell you that a mid-range jumper is an inefficient shot. That's only if you can't shoot. If you can, it's still a high percentage shot. If you can get to your spot every single time, that's the one thing that I loved about Kobe. That's the one thing that I love about Kawhi. Nobody is stopping him. I don't care how good of a defender you are from getting to his spot every time. And when he really needs a bucket, you put the ball in his hands. He can be low key. You might have 15 points, might even know not even know he's in the game. But in that fourth quarter, when it becomes winning time, he takes it to a whole nother level when he's tired. I just love Kawhi's game, and I didn't like him at first.
That's the thing that drives me crazy with analytics. Like, it tells you that 2 points is a bad shot, or 2 points is a bad shot, which is just, if you go back throughout history, Michael Jordan, his highest scoring season, he averaged 35 points a game. Kobe hit 35 a game. T-Mac hit 35 a game or close to it.
Mid-range.
The difference between him or those guys and like guy like James Harden is those cats did not shoot threes. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't depend on three. It was a mid. Allen Iverson couldn't shoot threes.
T-Mac depended on threes. T-Mac shot a lot of fucking threes.
Yeah, but Iverson couldn't shoot threes. Dwayne Wade couldn't shoot threes. I mean, these were mid-range guys who are some of the best of all time. And, you know, it's like you said, being able to get a bucket whenever you need it. So don't tell me the mid-range, you know, game or the mid-range shot is a bad shot when you can shoot as efficiently as, you know, a Kawhi Leonard, a Michael Jordan, whomever.
You know, I want to do a little session of contenders, pretenders, because when you look at these rankings, you got some surprises in the top that we didn't think were going to be good. Well, I wouldn't say that. Like Phoenix and Miami. Who do you think out of some of these surprise teams that are doing well are contenders, and who do you think are pretenders?
Well, if you want to talk about surprise teams, I don't really know what to make of the East Coast yet. I think that the East Coast, the Eastern Conference may be worse than I thought. But when you talk about the Western Conference, I don't think the Suns are a playoff team. I just don't. I think that they'll mess around, be the 10th, 11th best seed. But you know, I don't think they're contenders. I don't think Dallas is a contender. I think they'll make the playoffs, but they're not contenders.
What don't you like about the Suns team? That's the only out of all three of those teams you just mentioned. I want to know what don't you like about the Suns team.
I think it's just experience. Do I trust this team to stay on this role? Because I actually like the system that they're in. I like Monty Williams as a coach. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that Devin Booker actually has a real point guard and Ricky Rubio to play with. It's going to come down to health for Ricky Rubio. I love Kelly Oubre. I love Kelly Oubre on this team. I like Ayton. I mean, I like everything they do. We talked about Frank Kaminsky being a perfect ad. We've talked about them actually having a bench now. I like it, but it's just there's not a ton of experience on that team. And even Monty Williams. I mean, he took those teams in New Orleans to the playoffs a couple times, but is there anybody on this team that's as good as a Chris Paul or a David West who you had in New Orleans? I'm not so sure.
Well, the one thing that I would say is Rubio does have the experience. I mean, Utah last year or the last 2 years was his first playoff experience, but I think that's good for him to bring. He looks a lot calmer. He's better at controlling that offense, and I just like everything about this team. I don't see any reason why this team can't be good and couldn't be a playoff team, because I'm not a full believer in a lot of these teams in the Western Conference, especially at the bottom half. They're very, very balanced. That's the one thing I liked about the Suns. We talked about in the preseason, is that they have a lot of balance, and a lot of teams are missing it. They have a point guard, they have a scorer, and Devin Booker, which having a pure point guard also frees him up to be the scorer and then be the secondary point guard in the second unit and be a playmaker. They don't even have Ayton right now, and they're still looking good with Oubre providing that energy, Sark just kind of doing everything, and then you've got your boy Kaminsky. Kaminsky's looked great this season. They have a lot of versatility. They play good defense. They play hard. They run the floor, and they have the outside shooting. The only thing that could knock them is when they really start going under those screens and forcing Rubio to take a lot of those outside shots. That's when I think they may struggle. But if you get Ayton in there, he's missing the first 25 games. I don't see why this team could not make the playoffs. This team looks really good. They play hard, and they're really balanced.
So would you say that the West isn't as good as we thought it was going to be, or what? Because the back half of the West looks, I mean, and I mean that from probably like 7 down, they look bad. I mean, we know the Warriors probably going to get a top 5 pick this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if nagging injury keeps a lot of these vets out. We've already seen it with Draymond Green.
Warriors in full tank mode.
I think they're going to.
One thing that people forget about the Warriors is how the Warriors built their team. I mean, that's a smart organization. They were doing kind of what the Sixers were doing. They were just doing it smarter. Just touch on the Warriors real quick. People are going to laugh at what the Warriors doing this year, but this is how they built their team. They built their team on playing young guys, taking chances on a lot of young guys that were kind of, thrown away by the league, putting them out there, just seeing what they got, testing them, building up their value, and then trading them. That's what they're doing now. I mean, Steph is out. He just broke his hand. That was the end. Now Draymond has some kind of muscle injury. He's out. D'Angelo Russell's the only one on that team. They got a bunch of young draft picks that they got out there playing hard. Those dudes play hard, and they're developing in the system. This is going to be a redshirt year. This is what I thought might happen. I thought this might end up being a redshirt building year. So when they do get their players back next year, they're going to have a bunch of role players that have been through the fire. And if you can somehow get in that top 3 to get a Wiseman on that team, or a top 3 pick, and you add that to Steph Curry coming back, Clay coming back, D'Angelo Russell, Draymond Green, I mean, they could be on to something. You could be seeing them building a dynasty again.
Have you ever seen anything like this? I mean, the last 8 games that the Warriors played, Kevin Durant goes out with an Achilles tear. Klay Thompson in the same series tears his ACL. Steph Curry breaks his hand. I mean, have you ever seen luck like this? I've heard some people joke that it's the curse of Oakland. Putting that juju on them since they
went across the bridge.
I've never seen anything like this, man. You touch the floor, you liable to be missing the next season.
Well, they say something about karma in life, man. They say you can only have so much good luck, and it's going to reverse. At some point, you got to pay that debt. Now, I don't know who charged it, but they had a ridiculous run with not a lot of injuries. The only injury they had was the time that they got upset by Cleveland when I think that was before, when Steph Curry had the ankle injury. He still came back to the finals.
Yep.
But they had no major injuries during a ridiculous historical stretch.
And they also ran to the fortune of running into teams with injuries through the Western Conference. Chris Paul getting hurt, Mike Conley getting hurt the year before. I mean,
Kyrie and Love got hurt.
and Kyrie and Kevin Love got hurt. Kawhi got hurt. So they went through, and maybe that's what they're paying for is all them injuries.
Yeah,
I mean, who knows?
That bill comes due at some point.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with the Warriors. I mean, we can officially write them off, cross them out. The Warriors are done for the year.
But
no need to pay attention to them.
I still like what they're doing because I think this gives everybody a chance for a fresh start. Because even though Steve Kerr was winning those championships, it was always, hey, Mark Jackson built that team. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Which I never agreed with that narrative.
Yeah, but now it gives him a chance to build and to coach these players up. And what I'm seeing, I'm watching them and they're getting beat, but these kids are playing hard. Jordan Poole, Damian Lee. If one thing you got to realize about the Warriors is they've had a lot of people come through their system that have been productive in the league. They were just so good, those players couldn't make the roster. I mean, the latest one you're seeing on the Miami Heat is Kendrick Nunn. He was in the Warriors G League squad, tearing it up. He was the MVP of the league. You've seen players like Kent Bazemore, Seth Curry went through there. He became a whole new player when he left there, and he went to Dallas. Who was the other one? Jeremy Lin went through that system.
Harrison Barnes.
There's been so many people that have went through that development system and went to other teams and became a factor. JaVale McGee changed his career. You know what I mean? They do coach and they do develop talent. So I wouldn't sleep on, no, they're not going to be competitive this year, but they're also building role players for next year when they get that team back together. And they already found one in Eric Pascal, who's built just like Draymond Green, coming from, it's not Providence. What's the team that's been winning the championships? Kyle Larry.
I don't like college basketball.
Yeah, you ain't no help.
Now, with that said, college basketball kicking off this weekend, and that's going to be the last time I say it. I pretend I care about that till March. So,
well, what do you think about the Heat, man? The Heat are 5-1 right now. They played. I mean, they beat the Rockets. They beat the who else they beat? They had a pretty decent schedule. It hadn't been like they've just been playing lightweights. But what do you think about that team?
Honestly, I don't think about them. I try not to watch Heat games. No, I'm just kidding. They have looked really good, and none has been a great addition for them. Even Jimmy Butler with the birth of his first child missed the first couple games, and I was curious to see how they're going to fit him in. But moving Harrell to the bench, Harrell looks good, and we can talk about that Miami system but the difference between Fitz and a guy like Spo. Spo is a fantastic coach. Fitz is a terrible coach. Fitz is probably a really good assistant, but he cannot replicate what Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra have put in place down in Miami. And, we kind of talked about it last week, is that Miami understands when they have a star, right? Yeah. They're going to let him play. They're going to let him cook. They're going to let him shoot. They're going to let him make mistakes. And Fitz hasn't really figured that part out yet. So
he trying, and now y'all complaining. He's trying to let RJ just rock. You know what I'm saying? Now y'all said he played too many minutes, man. What you want from the man?
I don't know. I don't think Fitz is the head coach, but I like what Miami's doing. And the East has surprised me. You and I talked about Atlanta before Trae Young got hurt, but it looks like he avoided a serious injury. He'll be back tomorrow. Detroit stinks, and they're not healthy.
But Andre Drummond has looked like the MVP of the league.
Andre Drummond looked like Shaq.
He's doing everything, man.
Yeah, so that's been pretty impressive. Contenders in the East, I don't really know. I like Philadelphia. I really like Philadelphia. And now seeing how hard it is to score against them, we knew they were going to be a big defensive team coming in, but I mean, Philadelphia is really good. I'm a little dubious. I'm not as high on Milwaukee as I was to start the season. Yeah. I just think they need something else. Eric Bledsoe, not good. George Hill, not good. If Chris Middleton is your second best player, you're not winning the title.
They need somebody that can create their own shot. That's my problem.
We talked about it. If they could figure out a way to get Chris Paul, that would be a perfect addition for them. Even if it's a 2-year rental, whatever it is, gunning for it, but they need something because they've got some issues. I mean, Giannis is great, but that is not a championship team.
Yeah, I don't love that Milwaukee team. I think that it's easy to catch up and figure out some things that give them trouble. NBA is real good about seeing things that give you trouble in the playoffs and then mimicking that the next year. They're making it. I mean, Giannis is still doing his thing, but they're making it a little bit tougher for him. And even though he is getting his, it's making it harder for other people to get theirs also. I don't love this Milwaukee team. They might figure it out. They have a lot of talent. They're still long. They're still good defensively, so that helps. I like this Philly team. I mean, once they really get serious, Ben still has some of the same problems that we saw last year. That's the only thing I don't like about him. He's still showing some of those same problems. I don't love their outside shooting, but they're so big that it's hard to defend them.
I'm not sure
Miami,
that Ben Simmons is a fit for this team
either.
or this. Like, I think if you put Ben Simmons in New Orleans and you put Lonzo Ball in Philly, I think that's a great. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't do that, but I like Lonzo better because he plays defense. But you have to respect Lonzo's shot, and you have to respect the fact that Lonzo can put up 10, 12. He can hit free throw. Ben Simmons just offensively is a nothing from a scoring standpoint.
Yeah, an outside threat.
Yeah, I feel like Ben Simmons is an open floor point guard. He's not that. I don't feel like he's a half court point guard as much as they want him to be. I don't think that's his style, and maybe that might not be Lonzo's style either. But I think that Ben Simmons is. I like him better in the open floor.
Well, the good thing about that though is now by adding Josh Richardson and adding Al Horford in that starting lineup, he doesn't have to be like he can be the guy that rebounds and run the court. But Josh Richardson has a lot of experience playing point guard, as well as Al Horford has a lot of experience distributing the ball. So he can add some different dynamics where you can exploit mismatches against Ben Simmons. So I think that's what's going to bring a different dynamic. A lot of these teams that we're talking about, it's still early in the season. They're still figuring it out. There's a lot of new players and a lot of new places. We're only 6 games in. You know what I mean? At one point in time, LeBron went to the Heat and they were like 6-12 or something like that.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to give a lot of these players time to figure it out with their new teams. But I think a lot of the issues that Philly had last year with Ben Simmons, that'll be fixed with the addition of Josh Richardson and Al Horford because they're pretty good at distributing the ball. And they can take Ben off the ball in the half-court set and let him run in the full court. With Miami is funny because they actually got better by subtraction. I listened to a Pat Riley interview, and what he talked about is they've gotten away from the Miami Heat way. A lot of reason Miami doesn't get free agents is because of their little body fat thing. Like, there's being in shape, and then they call it being in Miami Heat shape. You got to be at a certain body fat, a certain weight, and they paid all those mediocre players like James Johnson and Deion Waiters with bad attitudes, Hassan Whiteside, and they weren't being strict to that. Well, this offseason they got back to that. That's why Deion Waiters got suspended. That's why James Johnson hadn't been a part of the team because they didn't make weight. But you see, when everybody's in the shape that they need to really run that SPO system, that system can be very, very dangerous. And they've looked good without the players that they had last year. I don't know if they can keep it up. I still have some concerns about their scoring, but they've been defending at an elite level, and they were doing that without Jimmy Butler. Add Jimmy Butler back, we still hadn't seen the full Heat roster together this season with Jimmy Butler, Justice Winslow, Kendrick Nunn, all on the same court together defending and running. But I like the depth. I think this team will finish about 4 or 5 seed, somewhere in there. What do you think about your Brooklyn Nets? What you doing that face for? Who's better? I mean, you just said the East is worse than we thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in wait and see mode on Miami.
Name 5 teams right now that you like better than Miami in the East.
All of them.
That's just hate right there. I knew you were gonna like the Magic before the season was over.
No. So, Brooklyn. I'm out on Kyrie.
I told you, man. I told you. Cancer.
I mean, we've been on the same page about this. Like, you got a cat that's scoring 50 points and they losing. You got so many young dudes that you got to develop there. Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and Kenny Atkinson sitting around digging in his ears and eating the earwax or whatever because he's trying to figure out how to not pull his hair out because he had a good thing going, a great system that he had built there. And Kyrie, man, and you've already seen stories come out about, this dude's mood swings are a real bummer on the rest of us. Listen, Kyrie's a phenomenal player, and you hear that he hangs out with Kobe Bryant, and
Mamba mentality.
That Mamba mentality is a cancer, man.
Yeah.
Because
that Mamba mentality doesn't work off the court, but the Mamba mentality takes over everywhere.
Yep. But I would not want to play with Kyrie. I would not want to coach Kyrie. I would not want to be a fan of Kyrie. I don't think the Nets. I think they make the playoffs, probably back in, and they need Kevin Durant because I think it's going to come down to a situation where at some point these young dudes aren't going to develop, or they're going to get tired of Kyrie's shit. You know what I mean? Because Karis LeVert is a do it all guy. Spencer Dinwiddie, probably not a starting point guard, but he is a very good guard off the bench. But I don't know that's worth it, man. Putting up with Kyrie and that headache, for me, I would have passed. But if that's the price of getting Kevin Durant, you kind of got to roll the dice.
Yeah, man. I mean, next year when Kevin Durant comes back, they make the playoffs. I just don't believe. I told you that early in week 1 that I thought that this was going to be a cancerous addition for what they were building. Because even though you had D'Lo would take a back seat to let other people shine. Yeah, he's coachable. He's gonna get his. But there was several nights where D'Lo would have 7-6 points because he just deferred to Spencer Dinwiddie and just let him do whatever. Several nights where he just let Karis LeVert handle the ball and he played off the ball. Kyrie needs the ball in his hands at all times. He feels like that they're a better team when he has the ball in his hands and he's taking all the shots.
Stand around watching them. Playing ISO ball, and we've seen that that's not today's NBA. ISO ball is going to lose you the game every single time.
Now, Joe Harris isn't involved in the offense. Karooks,
right.
They're not. All these players that looked good last year, they're not even effective this year. Now you see players like DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen more effective because they're rebounding all these misses.
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to take anything away. Kyrie has been good. I mean, he's been good individually, but that's the problem.
But that's not team winning basketball.
And he's not going to keep that up all season. It's shown that his body cannot handle that. His knees cannot handle that amount of volume. So he's putting all that volume. And I don't know, maybe when he gets hurt, they get better. But then when he's hurt, he's still walking around being a cancer in the locker room. That's what happened in Boston.
Yep.
So, I don't know, man. I just don't like this Nets team. I don't like Detroit.
Before we get out of here, I want to just say real quick, Houston better play some damn defense. And I get it's a new thing with him and Russell Westbrook down there, but they better play some damn defense, or they're going to get run out of gym a couple of these nights. Because you can't be letting them.
Miami had like 56-12 or some shit like that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening? You guys gave up 150 or 160 to somebody a couple nights ago. They got run off the floor last night by Miami, and we talked about Miami's not exactly an offensive juggernaut, but and that's not to say they can't blow anybody out, but you getting whooped like that. Yeah. Come on, man. Like, Houston, you better, if this is the title contender and this is your year, y'all better play some damn defense down there, or you're gonna get mopped up. You're gonna get run off the court by some of these young, like Portland and Denver. Them guys are gonna run you off the court in playoffs. Is this how you looking?
Let's say that this whole experiment with Russell Westbrook fails and their defense is just porous the whole season. Does that say that Chris Paul was right in the things that he was saying when he was there?
I mean, probably.
But then again, they play well without Chris Paul when he got hurt. I think it's just early. I think they'll figure it out. I think they're still figuring each other. I just can't see how this doesn't work in Houston because there's no way that Russell Westbrook is that much worse than Chris Paul. I just think this is an adjustment period. Houston's one of those teams where I think we're going to have to take a wait-and-see approach. It's still too early, and they'll figure it out. Because they started off slow last season, too, and then James Harden started cooking and averaging 87 points a game. So
now, that's true. They were like the 14th seed for, almost till damn near Christmas.
Yeah, and then they really turned it on. So, I mean, maybe they just got to find out what works for them. I don't know about the whole supporting cast. Clint Capella still looks lost. I mean, past 2 seasons, I don't know what's wrong with him. Somehow he's gotten lost in the offense and he doesn't even rebound anymore. So
yeah.
I guess it's the focus on taking away the alley-oop and forcing James Harden to just finish at the rim. Maybe the key to it is let James Harden score 50 and take everybody else away. I don't really know. But James Harden is still getting his, but they don't look great.
And then lastly, before we go, the Lakers look damn good, man. They took the first loss of the season to the Clippers on opening night. Since then, they've been rolling. Dwight Howard's putting up double-doubles like it's, 2011. LeBron just putting up monster numbers. They still need a point guard, to me.
Yeah. Someone
who can shoot the ball, get their own shot. I don't like the dump it down to Anthony Davis to see what he does type of deal. Maybe once Kuzma comes back, they need shooting like nobody's business. Quinn Cook is not prime time. Kuzma can shoot, but he's not a shooter. I think at some point they're gonna have to get some shooting. And Avery Bradley, can we stop? Can we stop with Avery Bradley? And I keep hearing people like, oh, he's been that versatile defender. No, he hasn't.
The glue
Avery Bradley
piece
stinks.
Yeah, man. That's one thing I said about the Lakers. I hated on the Lakers a lot in the offseason. Even early, I was a big hater of the Lakers. But one thing that I noticed early in the season that we talked about last week, but we had the technical difficulties, is that their size is a problem. Even without the shooting, it's very hard to match up with them because Anthony Davis is so versatile. So when they do lineups where he wants to play power forward and you put JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard in there with Anthony Davis, then that's not your traditional twin towers because you have Anthony Davis breaking down the help side up top. Now you literally got JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard down there playing one-on-one with some of these lighter centers. It's not like you still have the Shaqs back in the day. So JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard just dumping it down, playing these high-low games is just giving teams nightmares. Now, the one thing I did say about the Lakers, and I still fully believe, is Anthony Davis has had like 5 scares in 6 games of getting hurt. And once he gets hurt, it changes the dynamic. The question is, what does he get hurt? Does he get the 5-game injury or does he get the 25-game injury?
Right.
That's the wild card with Anthony Davis that you never know about, and that's going to be the biggest thing for this Lakers team. At that point in time, LeBron would kick it in, but I don't know without Anthony Davis. This team is worse than last year. You literally need Anthony Davis. That's my problem with this team. It's always been my problem with this team. For this team to be successful, you need Anthony Davis to be in the 75-game range, and you need LeBron James to be in the 75-game range. If any of those 2 players miss extended time, that team looks a lot different.
I agree. That's what I got, man. For those of y'all who new to the show, we're going to talk football, but the dinner and dessert is always going to be basketball. But as the NFL season starts to head towards that playoff race, of course we're going to give it some love. We're trying to get a couple new podcasts out to you to where we give you some different content. Got a lot going on 2Smart Network. You're going to start seeing this on our YouTube pages. We're really trying to build something special for you guys here, so we appreciate the support. And there's always ways to reach us. Beatty, hit them with that email address.
You can always email us at smartdummies2@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, 2 Smart Network. You search 2Smart Network. You can find all our YouTube clips. You can find this podcast on any site where podcasts are available. Just search 2Smart Network, and that's it. We're working on a web page, trying to get all our content in one spot, so we don't have to send y'all to 7 different places to find it. But yeah, man, if you guys have any suggestions, you can always leave comments on our Instagram page. We have 2 pages. We have the 2 Smart Dummies page, and we also have the 2 Smart Network. Both of them with the number 2 Smart Dummies, Smart Network. 2 Smart Dummies, 2 Smart Network.
That's it. That's all, y'all. Peace.
Peace.